So this handsome gentleman right here was supposed to come, but instead he's got. This is Josh Johnson. He's got 20 years of experience in the industry, in business ownership and management. He brings a wealth of knowledge of sales, marketing, process and personnel management, and financial literacy to the table. He has assisted over 200 small to medium-sized businesses with restructuring and scaling for growth. And we share him. He's just not working in the United States, but across North America, including Mexico and Canada. He's a very humble man, so he didn't want me to say too much about it. But when he starts to talk to you, well, you know what? He may be on to something. And something that is not listed in his bio, but we learned in a previous workshop where we were playing Two Truths and a Lie, that he was almost drafted to go to the NBA.
I wish.
What was the story?
I was going to play semi-professional ball overseas. An agent contacted me, and I went to the combine to try out. And after 3 days, I went from last place to next to last place. And that's when I realized I was good at math. So that was getting my best.
Without further ado, here's Josh Johnson.
We don't have a clicker, so I will be asking my Vanna to be my clicker.
I'm gonna ask one of them.
Okay, so a couple things. Number one is I won't tell you my story, but I will share this, that I have bought over 20-some years of buying, selling, and losing businesses. Have given me a little bit of experience in the realm of small business, small medium-sized businesses. And part of my journey started in about 15 years ago, working with other small businesses to help them grow and learn from some of the mistakes that I've made. So if you want to know a little bit more about my scenario, feel free to ask later. But right now, we're just going to focus on budgeting and understanding your numbers and understanding why they're important. So the first thing that I'm saying is, for those, question number one is, how many people have created a budget for their business? All right. How many people have looked at that budget every month after? Yeah. Because that's one of the things that we do is for those that create the budget, number one, they never look at the budget until December. And then in December, they look and go, holy crap, I'm way off. They try to use those last 2-3 weeks to make $1 million in January. But the idea is number one, in order for your budget to be effective, it has to be realistic, it has to be at the beginning, and then you have to look at it on a month-to-month basis in order for it to meet. Okay? So first thing is, and I tell everybody, how many people manage their accounts like this? Our budget meeting is simple. Monday, we had money. Friday, we didn't have money. So I don't know if it's gonna work out so well, right? So here's the idea. The other source of people that I hear is, I don't want to make a budget because I don't like being told that I don't have it, or I don't like being restricted. And that's that mentality that we have as employees when we're employees, and you say, hey, I need a new computer, and your boss would say, what? It ain't in the budget. It ain't in the budget. So that's kind of stuck with us. And so when we decided that we were going to start our own business, we decided that we're no longer going to do that whole budget thing, so that I don't have to say that it's not in the budget. Unfortunately, that's not necessarily the right way. So here's the deal. Budgets have bad names. It's not about what I can and can't do, right? It's about how and when I can do it. Okay, number two is, it's actually about playing the game and actually being involved in the game versus just being in the game. Here's what I mean. Question that I often ask people is, would you run the same play if you were down by 3 points with 30 seconds left to go in a game? Would you run that same play if you were up by 40 points in the first quarter of the game? Probably not, right? But what if I turned the scoreboard off? What if you didn't know if you were winning or losing? You didn't know how many points you had, you didn't know how many, time you had, you didn't know how many timeouts. Well, what play do you run? You run whatever play you think is gonna be, right? Because you don't have enough information to make educated decisions. And so what winds up happening is people tell me all the time, I hate budgeting because I don't know numbers. And that's not the truth. The truth is if you have the right information, you would instinctually know what decisions to make for your business, because you know your business. So it's all about understanding how to make it. Now, I'm going to dumb it down to a very New Orleans public school education. I use my fingers and toes when I count. So again, it ain't got nothing to do with you. You guys are all smart. But when you see me, we're going to take it all the way down to its basic elementary function. Okay? So one of the things that I oftentimes tell people is that we do these things in our personal lives and then get to do it with business. So when she asked the example about $1 million of your personal funds, you guys knew what you were going to spend that money on, correct?
Yes.
Why is that?
We all have a list of wants that
We got a list of wants, and what else?
we have. Necessities.
Wants, necessities.
We have different interpretations of value.
Well, before I go there, because you're right on that. But here's what happens. The reason why you guys knew what to do with your personal money was because you know about your personal bills, right? You know how much money you have in order to go to the club or wherever you're gonna go 2 weeks from now, or to a birthday party or whatever those things, right? You know how much money you need in order to get that new car or to pay for the rent. You know all those things. But then when it comes to your business, you ignore all of those things that you instinctually know how to do for your personal life. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to dumb it down to our public school education and really understand how your numbers help you to find out when and where. Okay? Let's go to the next one. So seriously, why do we need money? First and foremost, it unlocks your competitive spirit. How many are like Josh, where if you went on the GPS and it told you you're going to get there at 4 o'clock, what is your first reaction?
I got something.
I gotta get there at 3:50. And then you're constantly looking at your GPS and it tells you that you're now on pace to get there at 3:50. What do? Let me see if I get to 3:45. You don't slow down until that cop car gets somebody else. You go, oh.
All right. So I'm supposed to be
Yeah, that's when you slow down. But everybody else is like, okay, I got to 3:50. Now I'm gonna get to 3:45. And you just keep trying to one up yourself until you do better. Budgets work the same way. When you sit there and say, okay, I'm going to do X amount of dollars in sales, and in order for me to get there, I got to do X amount of dollars per month, and you start seeing that you're beating those numbers per month, guess what happens? You're going, oh, I'm going to do better than that. If your budget says that you're going to have X amount of dollars in profits at the end of the month, and you see that you did not hit those numbers, the first thing you do is go, oh, I need to do better. So number one, first and foremost, it unlocks your competitive spirit. Number two, it manages expenses during the slow times. A lot of times you guys know when your seasons are, when your peak seasons are, when your slow seasons are, but you don't look at it from a financial perspective to say, wait, what do I need to do in order to manage that? Once again, you do that for your personal life. All of us know how much our bills are going to be in the winter, and we all know what our light bills are going to be in the summer. So we make adjustments accordingly, and then we get into our businesses and completely forget that logic. Okay. We know how much funds to have, how much funds I need, and where. So I'll tell you about my grandmother. My grandmother was the smartest businesswoman I have ever met, and she was a maid. She was a maid, but what she taught me was what she called the envelopes. And if you wanted something, You would put it on the top of the envelope, and then you would save a piece of that money that you got in that envelope. So if you wanted a boombox, in my case, yes, I would put boombox on the envelope. And then let's just say as I'm saving money, I now want a bicycle. Guess what? I now have to put bicycle on it. Now, the money that I was putting down, the $20 or $10 or $5 that I was putting in one, now has to fight with my bicycle money. So now it has to split, right? And as many wants as I had, they all had to be reallocated to those envelopes. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So fast forward, I'm now in college, I'm now out of college, and this guy, we're talking about capital budgeting. And I said, what's capital budget? And they said, well, it's a financial tool where you reallocate resources for asset management and asset inventory. There's a whole lot of words. I was like, you talking about envelopes? Oh, I know about envelopes. Yeah, my grandma told me about envelopes, right? So all of this stuff, so it tells you how much you need, how much funds you have, and where you need to move those funds. And then it calculates when you will be profitable. How many know about Black Friday? How many know about break even? How many know the connection to Black Friday and break even? We'll talk about that later. And then lastly, it keeps you out of debt. One of the biggest mistakes that I see with my clients is that they've gotten over their heads in debt, a lot of like what January said, and it's because they had the Hope Creed. Y'all know what the Hope Creed is?
I hope I do better next time.
I hope I do better next month. I'm going to put some money on this credit card, and I hope I'm able to pay this credit card off next month or the month after. And when I'm not able to, I go and get another credit card and apply the Hope Creed ×2. Make sense? Lastly, you can predict the future. So let me talk this one through. Does everybody know lagging metrics? What is lagging metrics? Okay, so you already, so some of my people that I've taught already know this. Lagging metrics. So we're gonna dumb it down to New Orleans Public School education. What is a metric? Measure, right? So metric equals measure. What is lagging? If something is lagging, where is it?
It's behind.
It's behind. So lagging metrics is measuring what's behind. Now, okay, ready? Outside of measuring what's behind, what does one lagging metric tell you? Somebody? No, none of y'all. What does one lagging metric tell you? Nothing, right? Will Chamberlain scored 100 points in the game. How many points is he going to score tomorrow? I don't know. But if I told you that LeBron James, I've talked so much that now I have to change basketball player. If I told you LeBron James scored 24 points in the game, and the game before that he scored 25, and the game before that he scored 23, how many points is he going to score tomorrow? Somewhere around 24, 25. Now, here's again, you do this in your personal lives. You use lagging metrics in your personal lives to create what we call leading indicators. What is a leading metric? Measuring what's ahead, i.e. predicting the future. So, Krista, am I saying that you can predict the future?
No.
Yes, I am.
No,
You can predict the future. We do it all the time within regulation.
Yeah, because I guess the mate.
Within regulation. Give you an example. You know that it takes you 30 minutes to get to work,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Right.
It is now 7:35. Do you have an emotional reaction?
Yeah.
You're like, come on, we gotta go, gotta go, gotta go, gotta go, gotta go. Are you late yet?
No.
No, you're not late yet, but you're predicting the future, are you not?
Yes.
With a strong degree of confidence. We do this all the time in our personal lives and then forget to apply it in business. So, for the purpose of tonight's class, we're going to dumb it down all the way. We're going to assume that everybody has just started their business. They don't have QuickBooks, right? You are just starting out from the very beginning, okay? And we're going to talk very basic on how to schedule, how to create our budget. So number one, we're gonna look at our experience. Excuse me, I said that you're just starting your business, but you have had some seasonality, okay? So we're just gonna assume that you've been in business a year or two, okay? Why is that important? Because what does one lagging metric tell us? Nothing. So if I'm only trying to build a budget on one lagging metric, like 1 month, it's gonna be very difficult. But if I use 7 or 8 or 9 months, I can start recognizing those patterns and trends. Can we agree? All right. So you're gonna backtrack, look at your expenses for the last year and the year before that if you have it. We have an example, you guys have it in front of you. So we're gonna start practicing. So right now you have, and for those that are on Zoom, you will just have to trust us that we know what we're talking about. But for everyone else, we have handouts, and you're looking at year 2020, 2021. Now, right now, if you look at 2020 and 2021, it just looks like a whole bunch of numbers. But I'm going to show you guys, just like January, how smart you are. So we're going to take a look at three expenses, just to practice, okay? So what we did was we took 2020 and 2021, and we put it into this little sheet right here that says budget 2022. What we're going to do is we're going to look, let's start with employee wages. So the first thing I want to do is I want to look for patterns and shifts. Anybody seen patterns?
Mid-year is highest.
Say again.
Mid-year is highest,
All right, so when you say mid-year, what is mid-year?
starting in May.
May, June.
All right, so in May, June, July, what else?
August,
August,
and a little bit September.
and a little bit of September. What happens in September?
It goes down.
It goes down. So what is that telling me?
Those are like the peak months. Yeah.
That's my peak season, right? So now all of a sudden I started recognizing a pattern. You see how easy that was? Is there a difference between 21 and 2020 and 21?
Slightly. 2020 is more kind of, September of 2020 was higher than September. Sorry.
Keep going. Say it again.
It looks the same.
All
We're
right. So,
peaking for 2 months. Yeah. This year.
so here's what happened, right? All of a sudden we're starting to recognize a pattern. And this is actually a real company, by the way. We started recognizing the pattern. What the pattern was in 2020, I found out that my peak season is May, June, July, August. But that was 1 year, right? So I don't know if that's true or not, except guess what happened in 2021? Same thing,
Mhm.
right? So now, can I confidently say, now that I have two metrics, that my peak season is May through June, or May through
Make
August?
September.
Yeah. See how all of a sudden you start looking at those patterns? Okay, let's look at supplies. Do we see any patterns or things?
Spent more.
Okay,
Most
spend more in 2021. Why did I spend more in 2021?
The business group.
Hmm?
More, that and more
Did
demand.
you?
Probably more demand.
Every 6 months, there's a bigger expense.
All right, every 6 months is a bigger expense. So outside of those expenses, what do you see? Is it pretty stable?
It goes up and then goes down.
It was pretty stable for 2020. 2021 is like
Oh,
a roller coaster almost.
roller coaster.
Mhm.
So why is that? The answer is,
COVID.
I don't know. The answer is, I don't know.
The report's gonna be.
But guess what? But guess what? Now that I'm looking at the numbers, what it makes me do is question why that number is. Why is it that number was? Now, if you're anything like me, you won't remember what you did yesterday. So how are you gonna remember what happened in January of 2021? You don't, but what you do is you highlight the outliers. So I want everybody to circle the outliers. Yep, for supplies. What are the outliers? Say it out loud.
July,
So July, which July?
2021.
All right, why was that an outlier? Because
The
it's
highest, the
it was
highest.
1550.
So January,
January was 1250.
February. and May.
February was $100.
February was all.
We're doing supplies.
Supplies for the job.
Mhm.
Supplies. So I would say, I would say January.
I say March, so March maybe.
20 March.
So the first thing that we need to do
That's it.
is look for the outliers. Everyone write that down. First thing you need to do is look for the outliers. Now, when you look for the outlier, you won't remember what the heck you spent the money on. So the second thing you do is investigate the outlier. After you investigate the outlier, what do you need to do? What should you do? Say again? See if it's justified. Do I keep it? Do I not keep it?
Mhm.
What if January, the reason why it was 1250 was because we bought a whole bunch of parts because parts got walked off the job. So now what do I do? Well, I had to buy more, right? So now I'm doing my budget. What am I thinking? You need to hire business security. But now I'm saying, you know what? I put some things in place, right? Some systems in place. So I don't need to budget that 1250 again because I don't plan on making that same mistake again.
Right.
Does that make sense? So number one, look for the outlier. Number two, investigate the outlier. Number three, strategize. Do I keep? Do I go? If I keep, how is that going to affect me? Okay, let's go to the next one. What's number three, Victor? Strategize. Let's go to the next one. Meals. What do we see in meals?
For December,
It wasn't too bad.
so there might be a Christmas party or something like that. Put on the food.
Yeah, end of the year.
Yeah, that makes sense.
April, your costs went down dramatically.
Ooh, ooh. So are outliers always big numbers?
No.
No.
Sometimes outliers are really small numbers. But an outlier is an outlier. Outlier means that is completely unusual. So everyone circle 68. $68. So what do I need to do? Oh my God, you gotta investigate. Why was it $68? We found out it's because you had something miscategorized. Right? It actually was a meal, but it was labeled something else. Okay? So now you go back and say, oh, I found out where it was. I moved it from this category to this category and everything matches up again. What's my meals? What should I do with my meals? What's my average on it?
I would say like 200, 220, 225,
How do y'all know this?
because you can look at the numbers. and see.
Are you guessing?
Looking at the average number.
There
Yeah,
we go.
the average.
There we go. We're looking at lagging metrics, multiple lagging metrics. I want everybody to write this down. The more lagging metrics you have, the greater the confidence. The more lagging metrics you have, the greater the confidence. What that means is, if I have one data point, which way is this thing gonna go? What's the next data point? I don't know. But if I have two data points, what's the next direction it's gonna go? I don't know, but I have an idea that it's probably gonna go up. how great is my confidence of where the next, dot is going to be?
Pretty good.
Pretty good. Why?
Because we have all-
Because I have more lagging metrics. Everybody understand that? So again, when we're looking at the point that I want to make sure I emphasize this whole time, is when you're looking at your numbers, part of the reason that you're confused or part of the reason that you're intimidated by your numbers is because you're only looking at one data point. But when you find out by looking at all of the numbers, you start to see very clearly the picture. And everyone instinctively knows what to do when they see, because they know their business. Everybody agree? All right, let's keep going. So, where are we? So at your tables, and this is an open exercise, I want you to give me the budget for employee wages. Oh, I apologize. Before we do that, one quick trick. Everybody remember in high school, percent change? What's the formula for percent change? Say it again. No, that's how to calculate a percentage, but percent change. All right, we're gonna dumb it down to New Orleans Public School education. Everybody write this down. New minus old over old. New minus old over old. So I want everybody to pull out your calculators and tell me what the percentage change for employee wages was for 21 and 22. So 21 is the newer, 20 is the older. So new minus old divided by old. So 56,000, new is 56,069 minus 54,506. And then press equal, and then divide that by 54,506.
Like 0.02.
Okay, so then that's when we do the 100%. Yep, sometimes, so what's that?
Your labor went up about 3%.
Does everybody see that? Yes. So your labor went up 3% from 2021, excuse me, from 2020 to 2021. That's what that means. All right, so using that information, what do we think our 2022 numbers will be? So I
Are we
got,
just assuming that the business is staying exactly the same?
Yes,
No
for-
growth,
yes.
there's nothing.
yeah, for simplicity, no, there is growth, but just for simplicity, we're only gonna look at the employee wage. I appreciate you saying that. I wanted to keep it very simple, but in most cases, we'd be talking about what's cost of goods sold versus what's expenses and how we measure those, but just to understand budgeting, we're just gonna look at it as a line item. Thank you for that. Everybody talk it out.
What, next year?
Yep, so 2022.
Yeah. 57, 58,000.
Okay, so what do you think, what do you guys think? You agree, 57, 58,000? Okay, so how would it be divided up?
Oh, no.
Divided by the 2021. You guys say it?
Go ahead, what's it in?
What did you guys say? What did you remember? But then you would have to subtract the 2020. And then
Possible.
Have a higher than, that's how much.
Dave, go ahead. What do you do?
I would base it on a 3% increase month by month because during your seasonal months, it's gonna be higher If you just divide it by 12, then you're gonna be off.
Yeah. For sure.
All right, so let's try that. Let's try it that way. Now, there's two pieces of information that I want to make sure you guys understand. Number one is, we don't know. We're trying to find the right information to make a business decision, but at the end of the day, whatever play I call, if it results in a touchdown, it was a great play. If it don't result in a touchdown, then it wasn't a good play, right? But there's no right or wrong answer. So number one, understand that there's no right or wrong answer. Number two, and this is the most important, write down how you got that answer. You want to write down your thought process of how you created that number. So in this particular case, what you would say in your notes is that you were, we went up 3% in expenses, and due to my seasonality, I just took the 2021 number and multiplied it by a 3% increase. Now, why am I asking you to document that? Why am I asking you to write that down?
So you know, next year when you go back.
Absolutely. Again, if you're like me, you won't remember what you did yesterday, let alone a month or two from now. So what happens is you want to know where your methodology was in order to come up with these numbers. Make sense?
So if you're using QuickBooks, because QuickBooks does all of this, right?
Yep.
Where would you document that?
So if you're using QuickBooks, this is a trick question, because if you're using QuickBooks, QuickBooks has a budget function, but it doesn't tell you the information of how it got there. So what I would do is I take my QuickBooks information, just like you did from here. I take this and I put each one as a comparison. So just like with these line items here, I take my 2021, my 2020, my 2019, as much information that I have, and look at the patterns there. I'm looking for outliers, I'm looking for patterns, I'm looking for repeats, so that I can make an educated guess.
And then you would do just an Excel spreadsheet.
Yes.
I'm sure you already covered this, but I'll cover it. One of the best practices I found is that each month, go back and look at how you perform to your budget. Because if you're right, you're not gonna remember this at the end of the year. Let's say for some reason you had to shut down because they blocked out your street because of construction, so you didn't have as high payroll expenses. You're gonna say, oh, I was less than. So if you take David's approach, you add about 3%, it's 3% on down numbers, but there was a reason for that. Next year, you can't hold that because you're not gonna be shut down for road construction again. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So when it's fresh in your mind and there's a change, I have something called Money Mondays. On every Monday, I go back and look at my money from the previous week. And you may do it monthly, but write down what happens so that you can make an educated decision. So although you'll never know everything, to Josh's point, you'll know what you do know. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Where do you get that?
I don't use QuickBooks, so we'll talk.
That means you document it on a sheet of paper.
I don't document anything on paper, but I do keep the documents.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. So much information.
We can definitely
Okay,
talk about
okay.
that. Supplies for the job. What do we see here? All right, so we got a huge increase. We found out that in January and July, we had, we just mismanaged our supplies. So we had to rebuy supplies, we had to reorder, or any of those types of things. That's what happened in January, July. Y'all talk it out. Is that gonna happen again? Should we budget for it? Should we budget for our guys taking longer or missing or having more waste? No. I have some people saying no. What do you guys think? Yeah, so what if I got 3 guys and they go through more material than the average? And now I'm doing my budget, but I still got them 3 guys.
Yeah, the training issue or training
It's a
out.
training issue. It is a training issue. You may terminate,
It's a budget issue also, because you may be losing more than you're gaining.
right? So I'll talk it out. What do we do?
Materials, I would give them just enough, work with that, and then not give them new materials until they exhaust the ones in front of them.
All right. So how does that relate to your budget?
I would just say make sure your materials have warranty. But
Just hire,
Okay, so what does my budget look like for supplies on the job?
over.
So what I'm hearing everybody say is that the outliers, we're going to recognize that was mismanagement, and we're not gonna do that again. Is that what I heard?
Yes.
Okay,
Well, that was only for 1 month, right?
2 months. What else?
So that was the recycling.
Yeah, January and July.
So that's less than a year, that's 2 times too many, that's 1 time. 30, 90 budget for that.
All right, so what's my budget gonna look like? Let's do percent change. Let's do percent change. New minus old divided by old. What am I dividing that by?
1745.
1745. What do I come up with?
1.4659.
What does that mean? That's 146% increase in expenses. Ouch. Ouch. So if I take out the outlier, if I take out the 2 outliers and I average out my 2021, what does that number look like? Just looking at it, right? 100, 323, 250, 100, 150, 140, 125, 100. What does that look like?
125. 125.
125, does everybody agree, disagree? 200 maybe? 150, what? Okay, so if it's 150, so if I say, let me look at my January and my July at 150, I want everybody to do 150 for January and 150 for July and give me the average of that. And total it all, I mean, not the average, total the whole thing. So January 150, and then add February 100, March 323, keep going all the way across and tell me what the total is.
I'll leave it 15.
No, not leave it 1550,
Take it on
150.
1803. When you did 150 for July.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
1803. So let's do new minus old divided by old. At 1803. About 3%. All right. So we just figured out a good way of doing it. So now what do we need to write? What do we need to document? All right. So what do you write in your notes as you're creating your budget?
January, July.
Okay. Why are they outlined? Remember, you want to write every single thing down because you are going to look at this again. Yeah. You ever did this in homework and you put all the notes down and then you looked at it again, or not even homework, when you're just filling out your calculations and you look at it again, you go 5 and 6 and a 15. Where did those come from? Because we didn't document, we didn't figure it out. Same thing here. You want to dumb it down to on public school education. What you want to say is, I looked at January, I looked at July, we mismanaged the inventory because blank, 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 blank. I'm not going to do blank, blank, blank again because I've already terminated these 2 guys. I've already committed training process. And so I'm confident that my growth at 3% is where I'm going to be. Make sense? So now you put that 3% and now you're at 2022. You now have a budget for 2022. Everybody got that? Sure. All right, let's keep going. Meals. Found out in April that it was exactly what happened. We didn't put the right number down. So it was somewhere around 150. Okay. So 150 added to 3, excuse me, that's 70, 150, that's 80. So that's 3087. 3007. What do I do? Could I round? If I round, if I round, how do I want to round? On my expenses. Round up. I want to round up on my expenses. Why?
Because if you're around the interest rate.
Well, not necessarily. If it was 3,005, can I round down to 3,000? Yeah. Can I round up to 3,500?
Mm,
3,100? Maybe. Again, the answer is it all depends on you. What you do is you do your budget, you look at your numbers to see, wait a minute, do I get the profit margin that I want with this? And if I don't, what am I going to change? When I change it, what do I have to do? Document why I changed it, right? Worst thing that you can do is say, oh man, I'm $5,000 over the budget, so I'm just gonna slash 5,000. Because you're gonna do the same business as usual, right? But if you tell yourself, I'm slashing it because I'm going to do X, Y, and Z for the next 5 months, that's gonna save you some money. It's a whole lot different. Everybody agree? Okay. Next. I hate that you can't see. So I did these with my client. So why did we round up again? So you round up on expenses. Because if I'm better at expenses, if I do better than I estimated in expenses, I'm doing it. If I round down, right, to the best case scenario, and I'm wrong, then I'm over budget. You always want to round up. Okay, so I took the liberty of doing the sales. And take a look at the sales. So I used 2019 numbers. And I see that from 2019 to 2020, I went up 20%. From 2020 to 2021, I went up 9%. So it's still growth. The growth just slowed. So what were my 2022 numbers? Everybody talk that out. Why did I do my 2022 numbers the way I did? Say it again.
You average the growth of the previous 2 years.
You had a lot of peak months too in 2022,
Okay,
so you averaged them out between the two.
right. So here's what happened. We had a conversation. So we had monumental growth in 2020, from 2020 to 2019 to 2020. And then we had slower growth from 2020 to 2021. First thing that I asked is why? What did you do in 2020 or in 2020 that you did not do in 2021? Well, you start going through that dialogue. Oh, I was involved in more networking events. I went to more things. Oh, I look at my growth trend and I find out how many. So in June and July, I went to 20 networking events. I did so many email blasts. I did X, Y, Z in social media, and I did that. But then I got super busy and got kind of tired. So I kind of stopped doing it. So what does that tell you? Start doing it again. So what's happening in 2021, 2022? What am I writing down? I'm writing down what I'm going to do to accomplish that goal. Everybody see that?
Would you say taking the average of the two, like you were talking about, would be?
Mhm.
That's how you budget?
You could do it that way, or you could do what's called contribution margin. let me show you what contribution margin is. Everybody knows what a pie chart is, right? Contribution margin is the numbers that that pie chart represents. So, we're gonna do four months, January, Feb, March, April. So I did 100,000 in January, I did 125. In February, I did 125 in March, and I did 150 in April. So everybody add those up. So 100, that's 2.5. 2.5 is what? 375. So 2.5 is 350. 350 is plus 150 is 500. What contribution margin says is what is this month's contribution to the overall total? So I'm gonna take 100 and I'm gonna divide it by 500. Give me that percentage. That's 20%. Okay, give me February's percentage. Somebody in the calculator. It's not even 25. Oh, wait, maybe it is. Yeah, it's 25. Okay, and what's 150? Someone said 30. 150 divided by, I love how y'all 30%. 150 divided by 30. 30%?
Yeah, 30.
All right, I'm trusting you guys. So if I want to make 600,000, right, in these months, so this, let's just say this is 2021. And in 2022, I want to make 600,000. So I take my contribution and multiply it by my new goal. Okay, so 600,000 times 20 is 120. 600,000 times 125 is
75.
700.
70.
Oh, I'm sorry. There you go. I apologize. 600,000 times 25%.
150.
150.
150. 150. And 180. So this now becomes my sales goal. Okay. So one method to use could be taking averages. Another method to use could be using your contribution. Absolutely. Your contribution margin is based on your history. So you're looking at over the last few years, right? You take your total for that month, you divide it by the total of the year, and that will tell you what that month's contribution was to the total year. And then when you determine what your new goal is, so in this case, 102,000, I multiply my 102,000 by my percentage, and it tells me what I should do in order to make that. So I want you guys to think about it like a car. It's telling me that I need to make $50,000 to be on pace towards my 500,000. Okay. All right. I'm so sorry that this didn't go up. So, what is that saying? All right, so what that's saying is that from 56, from 2020, this is so what we went with is 3% on the expenses, and then apply for job. We said we won't make the same mistakes, right? Same thing you guys came up with. And then we rounded up to 3,100. So you guys did the same thing on that. let's do the profits again. Why, I hate this. I'm sorry, you guys.
Mhm, definitely.
All right, so we saw the 20%, we saw the 9.2%. So we came up with 102,000. Everybody see that? All right. So because I did the 20% here and I did the 9.2%, I was not satisfied with my 10% growth. I decided that I'm going to do something different. So I may not hit 20% because 20% almost killed me. So I may just do 15%. And that's how I came up with my 102. Everybody see that? Talk about break even. So you can't see this, but in your 2022, so right here, so in your 2022 numbers, you'll have this right here, this bottom part right here, tells me my total expenses. Should be one sheet. Is that all it works for? All right. Yeah, it should all be the same. Let's do it this way. What you'll see, what is my total expenses at the bottom right? $82,799. What does that mean? That's how much I'm planning on spending. Right, this is now my 2022 budget. This is what I'm planning on spending. How many sales, how much in sales do I have to make in order to break even? $82,799. What is Black Friday? Deals? Well,
It's the break-even point for most retailers.
Yes, it is.
Black Friday is the proverbial break even for the retail industry. And what that means is that by the time they hit November, most retailers should have broken even. And so therefore, they can now give discounts and still make the same profit when they were having their deals before. Does that make sense? Why do they do discounts? Say again? That's part of it. What else?
It just depends on the trend as well.
Customers.
Yeah.
The reason why they do that is for foot traffic.
So you
My,
can trample each other.
that's right. Not true, but the idea is if I drastically discount this, you will come into my store and buy more of my product, giving me more profit.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
So what I want to do, and this is not going to work on this. What I want to do is, yes, it will. Yes, it will. So when do we think our break even is going to be in months? What you'll see is these are all of the fees, 8279, that's at the bottom right. And these are my sales that I'm projecting. You see that across the top? So if I look at my sales in January, 5605, I look at my sale in February, I'm adding January to February, it gives me 11.7. And then I'm adding each month, I'm adding that month's sales to get my total. When do I hit break even?
End of September, or the beginning of October.
That's right, somewhere in between end of September and October. Why is this important?
Trend.
It'll help it keep.
Start off doing the retail does.
You're a little more aggressive on your pricing.
I can get aggressive on my pricing. I can follow the retail. Remember, if I'm following retail, that's for foot traffic. So is my strategy foot traffic?
Or
Right.
if it's on
Depends on
online
the visa.
platform and they don't have the traffic, but they can still get discounts. as
It's,
well.
well, it's traffic, it's online traffic, right? It's attracting more customers. The idea here is when I know my break even, I know the strategy that I need to make more money. Okay? We're gonna fast forward a couple more slides.
Where is the break even on this?
So on this one, what you do is you're adding up all your sales. Right. When you add up all your sales, it'll tell you where. So we're gonna skip these. All right, after the budget is made, next. One thing I need everyone to write down. Look at my budget monthly. And number two, every negative variance must have an explanation and an action item. That is the only way that you can effectively manage and make strategic decisions. Why is that important? Because again, most of us, we create our budget, it looks really, really pretty. And then we never look at it again until December. And then when we look at it in December, we're like, holy crap, I'm way down on sales and I'm way up on payroll. I need to make changes in the next 3 months. I mean, in the next 3 weeks, that's gonna save you. That's not gonna happen. Everybody understand it?
Mhm.
So what you should be doing is looking at your budget on a monthly basis. And every negative variance must have an explanation action item. Next. All right, so let's look at it here. Sales. My sales was 5605. That was my goal. My actual was 4250. So I missed my sales by how much? 1355. Now, how do I break this down? You want to break it down into units. How much was I down? I was down 1355. What does that mean? What that means is, if my average sale is $500, then how many units was I at? 2.5. 2.5 units. Isn't that a whole lot easier to understand? I missed my unit, I missed my sales goal by 2.5 units. Yep, missed it by 2 units. How many days in a month? 30. So that means I missed it by 1 unit, right? And yeah. So what could I have done to get those 1 unit? So first thing that you're gonna do is you're gonna say, I missed it by such and such. Why did I miss it? I missed it because I have some RFQs out there and I'm waiting on the client to return my call. So what do I need to do?
Follow up.
I need to follow up, right? So my action item is
Follow up.
Is the scoreboard on now? Do you know which play to run? Here we go. March. So my budget for March was 6394. My actual payroll was 8812. Right? So I went over budget 2418. What's the first thing I need to do? Figure out why. So I investigate. I find out that I had to pay overtime, a lot of overtime. Why did I have to pay a lot of overtime? Because I didn't manage the project correctly. So when I got down to the end of the project and I didn't make what I was supposed to make, I needed to put more people on it and work more hours. So what's my explanation? Okay, dumb it down.
You're not closing out in time.
Okay, so dumb it down. Number one, I had to pay more in overtime. Right, so this 2418, it represents 45 hours in overtime. Okay, why did I have the overtime? Not just mismanagement, what did I physically or not do? I didn't have enough employees maybe, or my employees were not working strong enough on the front end. And so I had to double up on the back end. So what do I need to do? Training,
Redelegate.
Training.
right? I need to make sure my supervisors know that, hey, we got this job, this, and this many hours, right? Do you understand that now all of a sudden you start talking strategy,
Yes.
right? This is what I'm going to do to keep this from happening next month. Make sense? Last one. My budget was $125. I spent $12.44, and I was over budget by $11.19.
Wow.
Say again?
The big party.
Big party, a big party.
Somebody said, hey, will you sponsor this bus, blah, 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 and it has your target, customers in it. So you did it. Now, so that's the explanation. What else? Wait, what happened when I did that?
Went over.
I got exposure, all right? Did it, there you go. Did sales increase?
Yes.
Sales did increase in this case. Okay, so I made more in sales. What do I do with that information? What's my action item?
Spending on advertising, but.
All right, I like where
I
you're
would, I
going.
would track your response. Your.
Absolutely.
Your response
Number
to
one
the
is you
market.
need to track your response. Number two is if the response is positive, then I might want to keep doing that. But guess what? I still have a budget, right?
Right.
So if I'm going to allocate more money to the advertising, what do I need to do?
Cut it somewhere else.
I might need to cut it somewhere else. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the other budget items where I'm not over budget. So in my action item, what am I going to say?
Track the response.
All right, so explanation number one is I spent money on this social media campaign. Number two is I'm tracking the social media campaign. It's proven to be a success. Number three is, well, not number three, that's my explanation. Action item is what?
That's the budget, the expenses from somewhere else.
So I need to say where I'm taking it from.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do this again next month. And my utility bill, my utility budget, I am $1,200 less than where I'm supposed to be, so I'm gonna take it from my utility budget. Make sense? All right, let's finish out here. Top 10 tips. Number one, your budget will never be 100% accurate. Right? So don't make it 100% accurate. But they do need to be real. Whenever I'm doing budgets with my clients, sometimes they'll go, I was 200,000 last year, 300,000 the year before, or 100,000 the year before, 200,000 next year. I'm gonna be $1 million next year. Right. My track record says I'm probably gonna be at 300,000. So I need to make sure that it's realistic. When I make my budget, I need to document why I came up with those numbers. Number two, I need to use as much historical data as I can because that gives me more confidence. Once again, the more data you have, the more you know your trajectory. Again, you can predict the future a whole lot more accurately. Right? Number three, write down all assumptions, all explanations, all the calculations you use to come up with that number. Write them down. Because if you're anything like me, you will forget how I came up with that number. Okay? Now, I need to add to that. When you write it down, dumb it down to a New Orleans public school education. Write every single note. The reason why that's important is because mismanagement, right? I wrote down mismanagement 2 months from now. I read mismanagement and go, what? Okay? Number 4, make it a team task. If you have someone, an accountability partner that you can use, go do that budget with them. Because they're gonna ask you questions that you're not thinking about. They're gonna challenge some thoughts. When you show them the same lagging metrics that that you are looking at, they're gonna have a different interpretation. Should I show my budget to like my regular employees? Okay, just making sure we all understood that.
Because then they'll see you have other money left over. in the budget, because they were under budget.
Let me tell you, if you own a business, you are multi-gazillionaire. You cannot tell your employees any otherwise. So if I show them any numbers, and they're like, see, I knew I should have gotten paid more. Because they don't understand how all the numbers work. Okay, do your best to stick to the budget, right? The reason why this is important is typically what we do is when we want something or when we feel a pressure, and we say, I just have to spend it, right? So my budget was $2,000, and I really need this truck, or I really need this thing. I just went on ahead and bought it. When you stick to your budget, you're going to come up with every single possibility of how I can make this work. And what you'll find is that it's not about not being able to buy it today. It's about, oh, I can actually get it in the next 3 months if I do 1, 2, 3, and better, and put myself in a better scenario. That's. What did we just talk about? Review every month, and every month you must have what?
An explanation and an action item.
Explanation and an action item. I need to know exactly why I did not hit my number. And number two, what am I going to do about it? Okay? Number 6, this one is important. So when we did the payroll one, and we were over budget, should I just tell my team, hey, we gotta do better next time, or what do I need to do?
Exactly what you need to do. Exactly what you need to do. What they need to do. So that way you can-
Absolutely. I need to communicate it with my team, especially if they have control over those expenses. Materials, they have control over. Labor, they have control over. I may not talk dollars, I may talk units, and I may talk hours. But I need to make sure that they know that we own the budget. The last few. Set financial tangible goals. Capital budgeting. Envelopes. Why am I trying to get these profits? Because I want to buy another truck. Or because I want to hire another assistant. I want to get myself out of the equation. You make it tangible. Because otherwise, you're just not going to even pay attention to the profits. If I know that I'm working towards X, Y, Z, what happens just like the GPS? Game on, right? Stay looking ahead. Exactly what January said, the last week of my last month, or the month that I'm in, I need to be looking at the budget for next month. So that I can start preparing and strategizing on how to accomplish. And then lastly, embrace your competitive spirit. Don't get bogged down about the budget. Use the budget as a way of going, I'm gonna beat this thing. And then when you win, celebrate that win.
With shopping spree.
With the shopping.
Then you don't get the truck.
A shot of her too. Guys, if you have any questions, this is my contact information. Feel free to reach out to me. I can answer any questions that you have. We can talk together. Yes.
Oh, I just wanted to add something, so, in yourself, not part of the expenses.
Oh, I love what he just said. So the question was, how do I treat my profit? How do I pay myself? Does anybody have an answer to that? You eat last. Okay, go ahead.
Or you eat first after you set aside for taxes.
I love that answer. So there's a book called Profit First. And what it talks about is paying yourself first. And here's what I mean when I say paying yourself first. It's called making your profit an expense.
Right.
Why? Because you pay your bills. So if I make myself a bill and say 10% of what I make is going towards Josh, then I pay my bills. most of us treat profit as what's left over. And if anything is like Thanksgiving in my house, what's usually left over?
Nothing scraps.
Nothing or Auntie's potato salad that don't nobody eat. Right?
Keep on.
Great question. Yes.
But you're saying, so people determine how much they pay themselves by a percentage of the profit.
You can do it by a percentage of the profit, or you can do what we call a minimum mandatory profit. I want to make at least $500 a month at the very minimum. And that $500 is going to go into an envelope, i.e. a bank account. Great question. Guys, thank y'all so much. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you.
No, these things are made possible. The meals, the camaraderie, the speakers, buy some grapes. And that's why I made sure everybody checked in before you said that, when I was trying to keep you from your potato. It's because, nothing in life is free, but we've got a couple organizations who come together to make sure that they can put on worthwhile efforts like this. One of those is the Dallas Collaborative for Equitable Development, or DCED, in partnership with Dallas College. That's why you get those emails. We're not trying to spam you. We don't want to sell you anything. Did y'all pay for anything today? No, but you gave us your time. So we wanted to have some quality offerings to be able to provide for you. And some of you guys have already been here. You've been here and you've been to some of these workshops. So we started off doing this summer with some information about people who were interested in the restaurant or catering business. Then we went on to the trucking industry. Then people said, you know what? Problems in business happen no matter what industry you're in. We want something more universal. So we switched it around. We started talking about using the media for your business. Then that lady right there came in and talked about business tools and resources that you needed to get set up for success. We moved on to this gentleman right here, who's actually one of our speakers, who talked about sales and customer service. We continue and brought into one to talk about getting to know your numbers, accounting 101. Then that gentleman with social media came back to talk about online marketing. And then last month, we had a young lady by the name of Simone Keys to come in and talk about branding as your foundation. Phenomenal speaker. Tonight, we had Joshua Budget or Bust, and we've got one more of these coming up next Tuesday before we end up the year. And that is going to be keep money and save hassle with tax strategies. And for all of you who did not pay Uncle Sam first, you might need to come to this. So just so you can learn how you would keep more of your money in your pocket. I don't know anybody who wants to give Uncle Sam money. I mean, this is a man who shows up all the time uninvited, never bought you a birthday present, you know what I'm saying? Never came to learn me, but he's gonna get his before you get yours. So we do have that going on. It will not be in this room, it'll be across the hall next Tuesday, and we still have some spaces available. We said that we really sold out, but you know how everybody can show up. So we oversell, you know what I'm saying, these classes so that we can get enough people. But I know you're going, wait a minute, how do I sign up for that? Because I need to save some money. Well, there are two ways you can sign up for any of our things. So I want you guys to zoom in on the screen. The very first part, I know they look just like something on it is different, okay? The very first one is the link to the speaker series. It'll show you the recordings and the presentations to all of those things, those talks that we've already had this year. So even though you may not have been to one before today, don't worry, you have access to all of them. Okay, including the registration, which is still open for the one next Tuesday. And yes, we're gonna have food, and no, it's not gonna be barbecue. All right, so come on in, it's gonna be something. I mean, we had it before, and I had to run it back because it was a great meal. Now, I want you guys to watch that because you're the first people that are gonna hear that. This was only supposed to run to the end of the year because it, like I said, it's funded by a grant that was set to end December 31st. They liked what we're doing. They extended the grant. So we will be introducing 4 more speakers next year. And we're taking feedback on what those speakers should talk about. So you're gonna get an email. It is not a solicitation email. You're gonna get that regular one that everybody says, thanks for coming, but you're gonna get another one that has the recording, access to the recording on it. And it's also going to say, hey, give us your feedback on how things went tonight. We need to know if Josh is one of the people we should bring back, or we need to tell him, thanks for trying. Maybe next time, okay? We want to hear what you guys want from us. Now, this second barcode is an even bigger deal than the first one. The second one is, like I said, Dallas College puts on this partnership, but they don't just put on the speaker series. Right now, the reason we're not in our new room is because they're doing a business organization and finance course. It was 6 classes for people who are trying to get their businesses and their finances in order. They're gonna run back another class on just how to work QuickBooks. Okay, it's gonna be starting, right, I knew I was gonna catch your attention. Okay, So y'all get the info before I even put it out there yet. But if you look at this other one, and you can always just type it in, Linktree/DC, DC stands for Dallas College, small biz, we didn't want y'all to spell all that stuff out. It's gonna have information on how you can register for some of these offers. And the speaker series link is on there as well, just so you can keep everything in one place. But tell your friends, okay? Because you have a lot of friends who are in business for themselves, and they don't know what they're doing. Okay? Bring them on, the way they don't borrow money from you. Okay, it's real simple. Just saying.
Period.
No, I really want to tell you guys, thank you for coming. I really want to tell you, how much it means for you guys to take. I know you've been doing something all day, but you still came out here, and it really, really made a difference. So we are grateful for your time, we're grateful for your efforts, and we are here for you. If you go back to that speaker series link tree, that address, it has contact information for every one of our speakers. That way, if there's a question you want to ask, they're gracious. They're gonna give you free advice, okay? They give you a little bit of direction. After that, these consulting thing means you got to pay, okay? But they are more than happy to get you started, okay? Because there's enough out there for everybody. If you succeed, we succeed. That being said, it's officially